This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Boaz Waroku is the Elimu Bora Working Group Policy Advisor, also here with us this morning. Good morning, Boaz.
Good morning, Do. Thank you. And
Karibu
good
sana.
morning, Seto.
Good morning, Boaz. How are
Yes,
you?
and my friend whom we have just met with here.
Yes.
Morning, and to the viewers. Thank you.
Thank you for being here this morning.
Yeah.
Assetto is taking us to a different African country. Let's hear what that proverb is. And as we get into this bit of a sticky conversation, we'd like to hear your interpretation of the proverb.
So we're in a country that is an island, the fourth largest island in the world, you know. But this is a very beautiful country because when you think about it, it's separated both from India and Africa. We're talking about millions and millions of years ago. None of us was an idea back then, but it is a beautiful country. So we're talking about Madagascar. Now, Madagascar, 90% of wildlife found there is not found anywhere else in the world. So we're talking about lemurs only found in Madagascar. So let no one tell you can come to Kenya and find a lemur. Atakuwa na kudanganya. You only find it where? In Madagascar. So Kenya, we have swimming lions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you also have fossa, which is a cat-like predator, and baobab trees. We have baobab trees actually in Kilifi, the western part, the coastal part of the country. But these one are iconic avenue of the baobab, so it makes it special. But let's go to the proverb of the day, right? And the proverb goes like, "Do not be like the chicken that scratches for food while destroying its own nest." Do not be like the chicken that scratches for food while destroying its own nest. Boaz, I start with you. How would you interpret that?
Do not be like the chicken that scratches for its food
While
destroying its nest.
Yeah.
But I've never come across such a chicken. Most chicken are very brilliant. And they know where to scratch for food, and they know where their nest is. But based on the Malagasy people, those are very great men and women. I thought you were going to mention Raji, the DJ president. Yes, it's a great country. That simply tells us that even as you are hunting for food, ensure that where you stay is also safe. Do not destroy an environment that would be your comfort or your house in an attempt to do or to get for food. Similar to growing up in the village and all that. Look at those grass thatched houses. Look at those the size of poles and all that. You come back in the evening and then you start. You're looking for firewood from the top of your roof. When you do so, the end result is that the rain will overwhelm you. So do positive things, even as you're looking for greater good. Don't do negative ones. That would be my interpretation. Thank you.
How would you interpret it?
Fine. I think I'll go a different way because the proverb is so articulate and on a chicken that has been given food, trying to scratch on its nest. And I think I would liken it to a society that, or a government that has a structure, and now it is trying to scratch again from the structure, to not knowing that they're destroying it. And by doing so, they may destroy the future of what was meant to be by the structure. That is my interpretation today.
Okay.
And I also say that I also greet my viewers, the viewers and the listeners, and people from Kiabu. I know there are several people who are listening. I could see now that several people, to the tune of thousands, are listening, especially principals.
Yeah.
And principals, our secretaries in the organization. So we thank God that we may come to something, and we hope that we may not be like the proverbial chicken that destroyed its nest by scratching rather than eating the food.
Okay. In this case, that nest could be the foundation that we give for children in the country to access a wholesome education, which is non-negotiable. It's not just people's emotions, it is constitutionally bound. Yes. And if the constitution is the law under which Kenyans and Kenya will operate, then this is a non-negotiable term in terms of what you do for children.
That's right.
All right?
That's right.
Now, let's take a few steps back. Not forget, but let's park the hullabaloo over the last couple of days for who said I didn't say, I was misquoted, etc., etc. And let's look at the initial statement that was made by Treasury Secretary John Mbadi. He said that the government can no longer afford to provide free primary and secondary education. He appeared before the National Assembly Committee on the 24th of July. He claimed that free basic education was no longer sustainable, citing the increased number of students in schools and constrained fiscal resources. He also said that the capitation grant for secondary schools would now be 16,900 shillings per child, down from 22,244. He said, and I quote, "Currently, learners are provided with tuition and operation costs at the rate of 1,420 shillings for primary education. For junior school, it is 15,042 shillings per child, and in senior secondary school, it is 22,244 per child." He said again, and I quote, "However," remember this is on the Hansard,
yes.
Okay? "However, due to constrained fiscal space and other emerging priorities within the education sector, updating these rates might be untenable. The government will, however, consider reviewing this rate should revenue performance improve." On exam fees, he broached the subject of national exam payments, revealing that the government was considering having students pay registration fees for national exams. Backing these assertions was the Education CS Julius Ogamba, who also believed that the increasing number of school enrollments played a part, and said this particular figure for the past 4 to 5 years has never been attained in the budgeting of the money that comes to the ministry, and that is because the number of students has been going up, but the figure has remained static. Okay? So that is what was said. He wasn't standing on the roadside of somewhere. He had been called by the Committee on Education in Parliament, and this is what he said. No sooner had he finished making this statement that the country went into uproar and said, my goodness, what are we going to do in terms of what happens? Now, just allow me just a few more minutes before we go into this, because he then came back a few days later and said that he was misquoted on education funding. So essentially, if we get that right, then this conversation this hour might be null and void. He said that on that, he spoke about the controversial remarks that he made last week that appeared to cast doubt on the sustainability of government's free education program, saying his comments were directed at Parliament and not the public. Mbadi now claims that he had been misquoted, stressing that his message was an appeal to lawmakers to increase funding for education rather than a warning to parents about looming school fees. Again, I quote, "I was speaking to policymakers. I was speaking to members of parliament who approved the budget." He said this while in a rally in Nyatike in Migori County on Saturday. He said, "I told them we must enhance the budget for capitation so that every child receives 22,000 shillings. What we have is less than 22,000. You see where we are?" So he said he was not speaking to Kenyans. So all this noise that you've been making for the last 4 days is unwarranted, and that the proclamations that have been made across board are now essentially moot. Boaz?
I do thank you for inviting me on behalf of William Obora to this conversation. And I think it is a very difficult situation to find yourself in, particularly when the CS for Treasury starts by indicating things which, in his understanding, are no longer tenable. He says it is no longer possible to afford free compulsory basic education. He says it is not sustainable And he's saying so. You have put the context clearly within the parliament formal process, meaning that that is the formal presentation he's having there. So walking back on it days later does not help.
Okay.
Even the president yesterday pronouncing himself that he does not intend to do anything similar to what the public seems to be discussing, because he's committed to free and compulsory basic education. I would say the statements that the two gentlemen said outside of Parliament constitute political gerrymandering, because the truth is the truth, and let's get to the facts.
Okay.
What Mbadi said is what is obtaining in the budget. The Limobora Working Group has worked on that budget, has analyzed it. Right from the time when the budget policy statement was prepared and submitted, we did send a memorandum and indicated that the statistics that were being used were not consistent, or the pronouncements that were being made and the estimates, because on the budget policy statements they were providing for those estimates. When the budget paper itself now was provided, we looked at it vote head.
Yeah.
Among the critical things which they are pronouncing themselves on, even the school fees, our memorandum indicated that, the exam fees, our memorandum indicated that there's no provision for that, and we asked Parliament to allocate it. They allocated, subsequently, when the budget was being now adopted, they added 5 billion to that. From a budget that we had said should have been 9 billion, because that is from the previous kind of the budget that they had. In other words, it was defunding of education had begun. But it was a case of you slice your ear to block your nose or whatever it is, because they plucked it from the capitation, So that's what the kind of thing that they were doing. And the same capitation that they were pulling some of these funds from had already been underfunded. We'd looked at the statistics in terms of the number of the learners that they put now to be supporting, and then you realize that the amount that they have put there is not consistent. And indeed, because we were looking at if the allocation from the child from the primary 1 to primary 6, and then from junior school grade 7 to junior school grade 9, and that of course the secondary, or what we are calling currently the high school, Form 2 to Form 4, because those are the ones who are in session for this year. You realize that budget could not add up. It's a total budget of 701 billion for education. That budget has lots of deficits because you come to certain sections, for example, the teachers' issues, which they are keeping on saying that they do the recruitment, they'll even convert interns into permanent and pensionable, but the budgets were just not there. You pronounce yourself that you'll be converting teachers into permanent and pensionable, but you do not provide for that. Our memorandum articulated all these issues. I think the problem we are having with the administration currently is a case of always just trying to draw or cause trouble for people to be angry, and so that sensibilities are thrown out of the window so that everybody is seen as, this is just politics. Education is not just about politics.
But when you talk about the education in the country, and you talk about the free education, look at immediately former President Mwai Kibaki got in and said, let there be free education. And we saw that happen for the entire period that he was in office. Then comes President Uhuru Kenyatta, and he even extrapolated that and said, let there be affordable secondary education. But here now we hear statements being made starting from the highest office in the land, from the president going down to the cabinet secretaries. And one asks the question, Is it that we have failed to plan? Is it that there is funds available that we have misplaced priorities? Or is it that we just don't know what you're doing in the education sector?
Clear things, I know my friend would come in, but one thing which must be clear about the intentions. The intentions must be clear. Kibaki rolled out free primary education against the advice and wishes of the then-serving president, Daniel Arap Moi. Daniel Arap Moi had Uhuru Kenyatta as his candidate, and his candidate said it is not possible. The language that, actually the statement that Mbadi gave in parliament is exactly the statement that Moi gave prior to that election. And I don't know why he just had to go to the archives to restate what Moi was stating, because Moi said with his 15 years as the vice president and 24 years as the president, he can tell Kenyans it is not affordable to have free primary education, what NAC at the time was calling for. So it is the intention first. Kibaki came in, and Kibaki said, no, this thing is doable. We know the leakages which are there in our public finance system. And he was saying, I want this thing to be done. And he had this summit of NAC. The first thing he did was to put people who could deliver. I mean, Professor Nyang' Nyong'o in terms of planning and all that. When you come to Professor George Saitoti, of course, that was a mathematician at the university and all that. He put people who could engage with the material and give us a way forward. He told them, we promise, it is possible, let's have this done. And they rolled it out. Didn't we see the octogenarians like Kimani Maruge, going to school? It didn't take, a rocket scientist to come and crack this. It is the intention, it is the goodwill. If that doesn't exist, because I think what the CS was doing in Parliament was wrong. In fact, I wish the Parliament just closed the door and said, we are impeaching you instantly, because they have the power. Unfortunately, we do not have a parliament with the teeth, because when he was saying that, he should not be allowed to say things which are ultra-vires or counter to the Constitution. He was speaking against the Constitution, Article 53, which pronounces itself that every child has got a right to free and compulsory basic education. How do you have a CS going in there to renounce that? So that is not acceptable.
So, Dr. Minor, do you think he was telling the truth? In his first statement, when he said that being able to provide free primary and secondary education is not tenable, do you think he was telling the truth?
I think he was speaking from somewhere, because from 2019, the education in our country has been in shambles. And you remember during the 2019, where we had this viral COVID-19 and those kind, the education has not been funded the same anymore. They have a big backlog, but they have not paid schools. Parents have to go back their pockets, deep back in their empty pockets, and try to sustain their children in school, because naturally they're supposed to provide for their children. It's quite unfair, especially when you try to kill somebody's dream and you are praising the economy to be racing in this country. If the economy is racing, then we are seeing the opposite of it, because education should be prioritized. Education is the key. And without education, because I believe that education is the international currency, and education being the international currency should be prioritized, it should be number one. So I think when he spoke to Parliament, he was speaking to Kenyans. When he spoke to Parliament, he was speaking to us. He was trying to tell us, provide, because he even gave examples, and he said, by themselves, he said, as parliamentarians, we are able to pay. But when I think about the poor parents in Kenya who make the biggest percentage, then we take it very seriously. That is a very serious debate being taken, trivialized by Parliament or by the likes of ministers who may not know. Because I think the economy is building up. They are saying we have raised the economy. Therefore, I think we should see the government doing better.
Do you think they can? Do you think they can? Resources is what we're talking about. This is a resource-bound activity. Do you think that Kenya right now has enough to take care of this?
What it takes is our priorities that are wrong. So I think all the funds that we are collecting, all the taxes that we are collecting, should be directed to education. That is not negotiable. If we want to have a future, if we want to build a future, if we want to have a generation that will be able to be readers, then that's what we are going to direct to. But again, I would like to urge the government, if you don't direct or take education seriously, then we are sitting on a bombshell. You see, the Gen Zs are wise. They are able to argue their case. Then you can try a generation that will be made of fools. That will be even worse than anything else. So I think it should be education to be prioritized, and education, all the resources, and that's what the Parliament Association is saying. And you know, Parliament Association is enacted by Parliament. Therefore, we are taking it. We are not taking it lightly. When you tell us to start organizing ourselves to pay, and we know we have poor parents, and we study the gap, and we know the government has what it takes. But we thank the president. If what he says is not rhetoric, what he is saying is serious, then we think they can. If they have the will, if they have the will, then they can be able to provide for education if they prioritize education.
Let's take a break at this point. We're looking at the education in crisis, whether it is resources for capitation or across board, from ECD all the way through towards university and tertiary. The question is, so where are we now? We're going to come back and we'll continue with that. Remember that wealth protection and decision support.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Download the I&M Bank app now or visit any I&M Bank branch and open your account today.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Akili, Akili. This book is called Are You the Pilot? A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
I just want to hear straight from you if those accusations are true.
Hey, stop. Don't tell me that's going to be our first kiss, Edward. Besides, I haven't brushed my teeth in 40 days.
Lucky for her that the 40 days countdown won't even affect her, since she's not really dead.
Maybe there's another way for you to return to your body.
So we're approaching Juliano Avenue. We're almost at the place that Robbie guy said Jane's family is using as a hideout.
As soon as you find him.
Tulipatana bongo, niko cheni, kwa zangu bichi nalo pepo wa bahari. Naishi hapa.
Take it to the max. Take it to the max.
Kama siwe papa, ningekuwa wapi leo? So she deserve a princess treatment, oh. You're a queen and more. As I can see you.
Shani Italiani kame fall bungulu. Akoma mini koma bungulu. Ashajileta lisha za machungulu.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
First of all, and who staffs them? And to say what is really being delivered to Kenya's children. Majority of Kenya's children attend public school.
Sure.
Whether it's at the primary or it's a secondary level.
Sure.
And what is the picture already? Before we now start to say that we're not going to be able to apply the resources that are required for these children to go to school.
Thank you very much, Ndu. If I may start, I'll tell you that for Elimubora, first, we anchor strongly for inclusive, quality public education in this country, because we know through that is where the children of the most vulnerable, most economically deprived, most, downtown in terms of economic abilities, children from those areas are able to get to the school. But the second fact I want to tell you, just this morning, as I was coming here, I met so many students from secondary schools who are coming back home. That early break. The situation is because our head teachers have been telling us they don't have money. Capitation is not going to school. It's not going adequately, but it's also not going in time. So early closures.
So you finished your exam. There's nothing you're doing.
There are those who finish. There are those who finished on 25th. I think the mocks, like the Nairobi part, they finished and they were told go home. Ordinarily, they would be allowed time to continue revising, and even the teachers take time to go through the papers with them and ask them, how did you feel about this? But this is a case where done, go home because we don't have money to sustain you. So the situation in our schools is that the head teachers or the administrators are straining. They are straining because the government is not meeting the capitation that is required. And indeed, this has been, the CS owned up and said they have never been doing so. Instead of telling us how they are intending to do, increase the resources and ensure that it is remitted in time, instead of telling us how they'll stop the chopping off of the funds that are allocated to the students, because you see, the funds allocated to students right from primary to the secondary school, they are earmarked. I mean, primary 1,440. Junior school, the 15,040. And you come to the secondary or high school, it is supposed to be 22,400. I don't know that.
244.
244, yes. So in that case, you find that not all that amount has been transferred. I think the CS, and even previously when we have been analyzing, we've been saying they rarely get 15,000, but the CS owned up and said they have been remitting about 17,000 out of the 22. In other words, some money is kept at the top here.
They say it's for infrastructure development. They retain 5,000 shillings, and they say this is for infrastructure development. So, Boaz, if you are in the middle of Mwingi, for example, and there's a school that requires whatever, building of a new, it comes from that money.
Do you know how that is very incorrect from the documents they have?
Yes.
Because the document they have a different vote for the infrastructure. Currently, they have a vote that talks about infrastructure for 440 schools. Our memorandum asked, which are these schools? We said, when a budget is not so specific, that is where you budget for corruption.
And if I may
and
add,
we say, yes.
At the end of 2024, we were told that by December, 10,000 new classrooms, not schools, 10,000 new classrooms would have been, established, if that's the correct word, constructed. Where would that money come from?
That money, initially, because they said we are now, you remember there was a call to take the grade 9 to high schools, because they're saying now there will be no Form 1, there will be infrastructure there. You remember that the high schools even still have that extra CBC classroom. So they were saying, let's take them there, because there's a constraints in infrastructure at the primary school level where junior school was domiciled. And they said, no, we have allocated a special fund for the infrastructure. In Nairobi alone, you do remember, I think we discussed in this studio, where 1 billion shillings had been allocated just for a construction of those classrooms. And you are saying we need to track and see that that money has been used to construct those classrooms. I think that is a process that even the National Parents Association, I know they assist of that matter. I think through my Secretary General, through their chairman, the Silas Obuadza, we've been asking that they check every school to see if those classrooms have been done. So those are special projects. The amount that unfortunately has been allocated for infrastructure, and we did ask, was amount allocated for 440 schools. And we are saying out of the 26,000 public primary school out of 9,000 plus public secondary school. How will you even select this 440? How will you do so? They say, no, the NGCDF will cater for the infrastructure. But we say, do you know that there's a court decision that the NGCDF is unconstitutional? How will you sustain such an outfit? So I think this confusion, which is deliberately being created, it is being created, but not to help us fix the issues or the problems which we are having in the education sector. If only they could be sitting and humbly and honestly telling us truth based on the obtaining facts on the ground. They go to the infrastructure, tell us, okay, let's have this infrastructure done. Can each and every school prioritize? If it is a classrooms, if it is a boarding school and the boarding facilities were wanting, so that we go through knowing that that is what is required. I tell you, maybe because I don't want to take a lot of time, I'll tell you that because the budgeting process is centralized at the Treasury, directed by the World Bank and IMF. That is why Kenyans are not able to do their budget accordingly. Because? Open up the budget process. The directives, our budget is being done in Washington, so to say. The headquarters of the IMF, World Bank, the Bretton Woods institutions. The moment we extricate ourselves from that, I think we'll open up the budget process in accordance with Chapter 12 of our Constitution. The budget making process is supposed to be a sovereign exercise done by the citizens of this country, allowing them to start right from the school level, identifying the educational needs and saying, if the education, the needs we require are 1, 2, 3, the amounts we require are 1, 2, 3 should be, so that in case at the national level, we realize that we may not get all the money. There'll be priority. We'll say we'll start from 1 to 2. The next time we'll go to 3. Okay. In that case, it would be better. But right now, the reason why they were even now trying to cut off from capitation to take to exams and all that, it's because it has already been determined elsewhere. And it's just being brought.
So let's look at it from the parents' perspective now. Here's a situation where a billion shillings has been allocated to Nairobi to construct these schools. First of all, as the Parents Association, has that happened? And even when you talk about 400 schools that would be constructed through that emergency development fund that is there, has that happened? And if not, how are you guys approaching that and having this discussion with the government?
First and foremost, I think it was long to politicize education because these classes were built for the long reasons, for political reasons. Because why would you leave a space in a primary, in a secondary school, and create a new class, and you don't have funds? If that is true, there were no funds. Then this makes it look so misplaced that you are misusing funds in infrastructure, whereas there is a infrastructure that is laying idle.
Are you saying the Presidential Working Party that made that decision to domicile these classes in primary?
That was wrong.
Got it all wrong.
It was even against our decision. We had said why domicile it and we need infrastructure, unless there was a misplaced priority and there was political business that was involved. And I'm not a politician, but as parents, we may think naively and say this was a misplaced priority because we had infrastructures, and even as we speak, we are going to grade 10 with very little infrastructure. And as you know, recently there are several schools, more than 4,000 of boys that have not been chosen by a single child. These agencies, they know schools without infrastructure, and they will not force them to go there. The biggest rebel from the children will be when you force them to go to the schools that they never chose. We are choosing 12 schools.
Yes.
12 schools. And previously we had been choosing 11 schools. And now this one is dictatorial because previously we said, no, now we are supposed to be dictated by, because we have been done retooling. A lot of retooling has been done to the parent association so that we can also guide the CBE. Okay. The baptized CBE from the CBC. And why they are doing this is because we would like to see as if we are doing something, to be seen as if they are doing something. But what the real thing is that we are lacking in infrastructure. whereas we shall leave their infrastructures that have incomplete in primary schools, whereas we have idle infrastructures in secondary school. You can see the scenario.
Okay.
The scenario is one thing. It's either we are having leaders who do not see, or leaders who are read by something that I may not say, or could be gluttonous for money or for business. So I think it is important for us to put matters right. What was done was wrong.
Okay.
And the two wrongs cannot make a right.
So, Boaz,
Yes,
as you hear the cabinet secretary say that Kenyans want to be told what they want to hear, not the truth, is there a semblance of truth in what the cabinet secretary is saying, that let us face this problem head on, that the government is unable to provide the funds, the free secondary funds, fees pretty much? Is there a case there? Do we want to hear what we want to hear, or we're just afraid of hearing?
Actually,
allow me to put something in there as well,
please.
Boaz,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
we're talking about constitutionality here.
Yes.
We're not talking about somebody's idea. You know,
Not suggestions.
President Kibaki made the free
Primary
education.
Yes.
And this was before the
2010
Constitution.
Yes.
But the 2010 Constitution came in and enshrined free and compulsory basic education. Now remember, this goes across primary into secondary.
Yes.
So it enshrines free and it is compulsory. So that is, they must go to school and they shouldn't pay for it. So that means government ought to pay for it.
Yes.
Coming off of that premise?
Government pays for it from the taxes they collect from the public. I'll come to that. I'll start with what Dennis is saying. CS Mbadi cautions and tells Kenyans, please, let's tell you the truth. We know it will be bitter, but the truth is we cannot afford. That is what he goes to say. And he says, I know you want you to hear, for me to tell you nice things. I'm not going to tell you those nice things. But when he went to that rally out there, he did the exact thing. He was saying. He was telling them now nice things to hear. But in Parliament, he was pronouncing himself on the basis of the facts as were in that budget. And those facts are still in that budget. Things which ourselves have been calling out for and telling them that the amounts you put there are not adequate. Mbadi talked about reducing capitation from 22,240 to 16,900. That was not a suggestion. It is in the document that he is holding. So whatever he's doing out there now that is completely, that's where the politics is. The same thing he was questioning is what he was doing. So this is supposed to be a technocrat, he's supposed to be an expert, but he's also playing politics of the gallery. That must be called out. We as policy analysts and all that, we'd call him out also and say, in a setup which has been ironclad in the Constitution, that if you want to change policy, there must be public participation. When and how did he consult to arrive at the 16,900 from that time? He's completely off the side. That's why even when I made a statement that it should have actually been censored by Parliament, I think Parliament should have called him back to order and told him, you are embarrassing yourself here, you are out of order, go and reflect on the matters you're saying so that you come back and do. The Constitution is not providing suggestions on what should be done. I come from Homo Bay, and that is where the constitutional gurus, even from the streets, come from, the young people. There's a young man who told you, shall means mandatory.
Yes.
Why do you want me to call that young man to come and lecture you again? Because when it said that every person has the right and the government shall, Article 23, that is a directive principle. The government shall provide for that. That's Article 23. So free and compulsory. Free means don't ask these people to come and pay for the exam. Don't ask these parents to come and start shouldering the burden of education infrastructure, the equipment and the material. But compulsory means every time it's a school season, there shouldn't be iota of a single child being seen walking the streets. That is out of school. As we speak now, UNESCO puts 2.5 million children to be out of school. Meaning compulsory is not being realized. UNICEF and the Save the Children, based on their report of 2024, they put it at 3.5 million. So the dream of these children is being betrayed. And that's why for us, we're saying as a Limbora, let there be a reset on how do we handle the free and compulsory basic education, but also because Article 55 on the youth is also saying that every young person, and you know the youth, those people who are below 35, that those people are entitled to education and training of quality to the highest level attainable at affordable rate. And it also ties that with the Article 23 of the Constitution. That article compels the government to do all that is within its powers to ensure that they deliver on the promises of our Constitution. Anybody who is speaking differently is not a friend of the children, is not a friend of the youth, is not a friend of this country, and is listening to other people outside there.
And it is also against the Ministry of Education policy for accessing education.
Yes.
And every child shall access education. Not shall pay. Accessibility is the key, and now you find it indifferent, because you find even primary schools charging entry fees,
outlawed fees,
a lot of fees that are supposed to be, and in the eyes of the government, colluding with the government agencies there in the sub-counties, in the counties. So I think the government should come up straight and say that it's compulsory. If it is compulsory, the say Onyubakumi is supposed to be used, whose child is not attending school? Why are they not attending school? And we even said earlier on that if we wanted to make it compulsory, remove the uniform. And if you remove the uniform or allow the parents to buy something that looks like uniform. Because something that looks like uniform, you can go to anywhere and buy. But when you say that uniform is going to be bought from shop B, you are also trying now to make it very hard for the parent. You are going against your own policy of accessibility to education. So I think the government needs to come up seriously, and I think we are not taking lightly that somebody is saying these are not rhetorics. These are things that have been talked, spoken, and they want to be stated the poor parent. And I think the child shall actually in future question, why was it free, compulsory, and why was my parent not able to take me to school?
You see, we're talking about a deficit of 64 billion shillings that has not been remitted by the government, and this is a matter that continues to pile up on the fact. Now, couple that with the fact that teachers have also not been employed to the numbers that are needed. Waruku,
yes,
what
please.
are we doing to the education sector, and how do we just sort out the mess that is in there?
The mess can be sorted by people who understand education. The leadership is one thing on education in this country. If we can't fix that, we'll not fix education. Two, the mess must be sorted by ending impunity and corruption in the education sector. My brother and the National Parents Association have been talking about this. They're saying, when the amounts that are being remitted and the levies that the parents are being charged, those are illegal levies. Elimu Bora did a survey and indicated part of what my friend Maina is saying. Admission fees outlawed by Basic Education Act, Section 29. Those are still being charged. Even desks are being asked for them to go. So a leadership that allows that to continue is exploiting the parents. But also there are some heads of schools who have also gone overboard and have become part of the barriers to access of education. You heard about the Auditor General's report, where a school transfers 2 million for welfare association matters, Kenya Secondary Heads Association.
And it is illegal.
That is illegal. That's a welfare body. They send 2 million to that welfare body, but they are sending the children for the balance of 2,000, some small balances. In other words, I think the call that even Elimbora and the National Parents Association we are making is remove all these barriers.
Even activity fee.
Yes.
There's something known as activity fee.
Yeah.
And even if in the computation, Jogo will deduct the activity fee from Jogo. And then want our secretaries. Yes. And then they want the secretaries who are in the parent association, who are head teachers or principals, to actually also account for that.
Yeah.
Activity, and this activity is not seen to be given to the national, the pupils or the student when they go to national.
The students
they are not
organized.
given. Again, the parent is supposed to pay. So you can see this kind of extortion of money to the parents is unwarranted, and I think it is making the poor parents become so sidelined that they are not able to access education. Their students, and you every day you see students in the streets walking,
yes,
going, and this is in the eyes of the government, because there is the eyes of the government. We should say Nyubakumi, we have the chief, we have everybody, we have the education officers, the Dikaso, and everybody, and it is happening at their face. Activity fee of 300 shillings collected from primary schools, and everybody knows that. And nothing is being done, because this money exchanges hands. I believe it exchanges from the sub-county to the county to the highest level. So that's why it's done with impunity. I think this must stop, and it must be, the dream of Mwai Kibaki must be deactivated. It must be deactivated.
Indeed, it has to. And something has got to shift, even as we wrap up this conversation. Last words from you, boss.
Yes, I wanted just to say that, you started by indicating that Kibaki delivered free primary education without the constitution we have 2010. It was the intention. He knew that for this society to develop, for the industrialization, the transformation we require, invest in education.
Indeed.
With the 2010 constitution, we should now not be negotiating. Why? Because that negotiation had been done and Kenyans settled.
On it.
They settled and said in black and white, this is what we will follow: free and compulsory basic education, and also supporting tertiary education, the youth education and training to the highest attainable level. Access unlimited, including persons with disability.
Absolutely.
That is Article 54. So you'd find that all these things had been settled by Kenyans. The problem we are having is the deficit in understanding by the leadership and in being clear and focused on the vision that the Kenyans themselves identified.
And
if they cannot follow that vision, I think let them ship out.
And let somebody who can handle it do.
Yes.
I guess that's where we're going with that. Maina Wa Gaidhoro, Doctor, is the Secretary General of the Parents Association, Kiambu County. Boaz Waroko, Elimubora Working Group Policy Advisor. Thank you for being here. The conversations don't end. We must continue.
Thank you for the opportunity.
8:08. Asante.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.